The 1950s and 60s were a great time for TV westerns. There's never been such a time where we had such strong cowboy characters. We had shows like Bonanza, Lone Ranger, Wagon Train, and Gunsmoke. But we also had a show that kicked off Clint Eastwood's great career, and that show was Rawhide. The show is actually set in the 1860s, and it captures the cattle drive lifestyle that these gentlemen experienced. Eric Fleming stars as the trail boss, Gil Favor. Clint Eastwood stars opposite him as Rowdy Yates. He's the young and feisty accomplice to Favor. Sheb Wooley plays Scout Pete Nolan, and Paul Breingar played the cook Wishbone. It was an absolutely great group of characters to follow season after season. We sat in front of our TVs just tuned to the channel to watch the cattle drivers as they helped people out on the trail. They defeated bandits, protected the cattle from wolves, and so many more things. It ran on Friday nights for 6 years before moving to Tuesday nights in its final stretch of the series. The series ran for 217 black and white episodes on CBS, and it's one of the longest running Western TV series there is. Now, the show really dealt with some controversial subjects over its entire tenure. It took place 4 years after the Civil War, and it didn't mind tackling some real nitty-gritty subject matter. Robert Culp actually guest starred as an ex-soldier who was a morphine addict in Incident at the Top of the World. Sometimes the show would even touch on supernatural stuff that you normally didn't see in Westerns. One episode called The Incident of the Murder Steer and The Incident of the Haunted Hills are two that dealt with those issues. Frank C. Robertson published a novel based on the TV show in 1961. And actually, Eric Fleming and Clint Eastwood even appear on the cover of the book as the characters Favor and Yates. The story follows this main group of characters trying to beat a rival herd to a location. Now, who doesn't remember the theme song? Move 'em on, head 'em up, Rawhide. That theme song was written by Ned Washington and really became popular. It was sung by pop singer Frankie Lane for the show, but it is frequently used in modern films, like The Blues Brothers and Shrek 2. During its 7-year run, it had some really cool guest stars over the years. It had Bruce Stern, Elizabeth Montgomery, Mickey Rooney, Dean Martin, Leonard Nimoy, Beau Bridges, to name just a few. Clint Eastwood actually saved the boots from the show and used them in another one of his films. It wasn't just any film, it was the Oscar-winning film from 1992, Unforgiven. It brought home the Best Picture and Best Director awards for Clint Eastwood. And the whole film, he's wearing his Rowdy Yates boots. Now, Clint Eastwood is kind of known for having a lot of children with multiple women. While he was still married to his wife, Maggie Johnson, he had a relationship while on this set with a stunt woman named Roxanne Tunis. They ended up having a child, a daughter, and her name is Kimber Eastwood. She was born in 1964. Rawhide is actually the 5th longest running Western. There was quite a few of these that lasted a long time. There was Wagon Train, The Virginian, Bonanza, Gunsmoke. So it's right up there with a large grouping of strong Westerns that just dominated that time frame. Now, Rawhide finished its run the first week of 1966. By that year, Clint Eastwood was a star of the small and big screen. To further capitalize on Clint Eastwood's fame, Jolly Film, the studio behind A Fistful of Dollars, actually pieced together a couple of old episodes of Rawhide to try to still capitalize more on Clint Eastwood's popularity. Clint Eastwood actually sued him and had the 1967 film withdrawn from distribution. Now, Eric Fleming, who played Gil Favor in the TV show, had a pretty amazingly difficult early childhood. He was actually born with a club foot, and he needed to have crutches to get around, and he was also severely beaten by his father. At the age of 8, he got into an altercation with his father, and he tried to harm his father. He started doing odd jobs and associating with gangsters to make money. Then he was actually injured in a gunfight with some gangsters and hospitalized. When he finally got out of the hospital, he went back to live with his mother, who was recently divorced. Now, he received some severe facial injuries when he had a bet with somebody about attempting to lift a 200-pound weight. The weight was dropped on top of his head, and he had to undergo extensive plastic surgery to reconstruct his forehead, nose, and jaw. Before the incident happened, he always thought of himself as being ugly, and he felt like after he had the reconstruction that it actually helped his looks out. After he had the facial reconstruction, he went to work at Paramount Studios in the construction department and as a grip and a carpenter. During this time, he went to acting classes in the evenings because he felt like it would be a better fit for him than being a carpenter. Now, Eastwood's character kind of overshadowed the work of Eric Fleming on this popular show. Fleming left the series in 1965 and began work on the big screen. He appeared in the Doris Day comedy The Glass Bottom Boat, and then he began work on location in Peru for the adventure High Jungle. He was filming a scene on a river down there when his canoe overturned and he perished in the rapids. There's been these urban legends about Piranha that developed, but they're all untrue. He actually just succumbed to drowning. Fleming drowned on September 28, 1966, at the age of 41. He left behind his fiancée, Lynn Garber. It's been over half a century since Gil Favor and Rowdy Yates set out on their cattle drives, but the doggies just keep on rolling. Rawhide still remains one of the most beloved westerns and television shows in general of the late 1950s and early 60s. The gritty action made Clint Eastwood a household name, as his rowdy character eventually became the central focus of this cowboy series. Thank you so much, Clint Eastwood and Eric Fleming, for your great portrayals that you gave us in Rawhide. Such a great show and so much fun to watch in reruns. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll keep chasing the classics.